Hello, everyone on the internet, and thanks for tuning in.
And welcome to another episode with me, Master Rider Bushido, and with my Toku Bro from the other side of it's Flayvaman!
Type speed!
This episode has been brought to you by Mara Green. Like a
Who?
serpent, just Sentai style. That's how I go.
Who?
You know who I am. Anyway, I wish you did something like start your engine!
Listen, stop it. I told you, it's my thing. Anyway, let's roll on. It's been a while.
No comment. How are you? Anyway, no, fuck that. Ladies first, honestly. So, because literally, you just stunned me with how atrocious, and I forgot how atrocious you are with the opening.
It's been a while, but
I can
of
tell.
course, normally the bit that you do is when you say, "Oh, and this week or this episode we're talking about." Oh, come on.
Well, I was just enjoying, a bit of fan service there, but anyway. Or a bit of a shout out. Sorry, shout out.
Yeah.
A shout out, actually, I should say.
I want fan service.
Yeah.
I'll ask Kiriko. Anyway, go on.
Just rewinding about 20 seconds. So yeah, after that atrociousness, yes, this week we'll be talking about Kamen Rider Drive, the latest.
Yay!
The latest, and that have just finished Kamen Rider, and yeah, go for it. What would you like to?
It finished about 2 weeks ago, and I'm already missing it. But I'm like us looking back on it. Okay.
Well, saying that, saying that, looking back on it, what did you think of? Let's start from the very, 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 very beginning, build-ups.
Right. Well, building up to Kamen Rider Drive, I'll be honest, I don't remember anything. I don't remember. So, I remember like the reveal of, oh, this year we're going to be, it's sort of like 15th Heisei, and as well it was, oh, they're doing a car thing again. I remember that was made of, they made a very, like the fandom made a very big deal of that, and so did the rumor mill. And then sort of like the big reveal to what Drive looked like, I was blown away. I was like, yes, he looks swish.
Mm-hmm.
Totally loved it. And then like just sort of going over what was then revealed bit by bit. Like I remember even before the first episode aired, I think this kind of this can be comparable to the current, what was revealed about Ghost. Like even just before, like you were having reveals of Maha, and like just learning about how, he was like, supposed to be doing some sort of homage thing, and like very early on we were being told about Kamen Rider GP, which is kind of like a part of the reason why the whole car motif was pushed, and like sort of I was a bit sort of muddled as to what the villains were supposed to be about, but obviously whenever you hear rumours and stuff, so once you're watching the show it kind of makes sense. So but pre-Ep 1 the villains didn't really make much sense to me. At the same time, sort of the backdrop, him being a detective, I was a bit like, this is going to be a bit cliche, but I think they put, like, going post-Step 1, I did think they did quite well in making it really quirky.
Are you doing build-up or fucking the whole fucking thing all by yourself, and then am I solo?
No, I'm just going off my opinion as a whole, like, just...
I thought that was at the end, you give your final thought.
No, we do both, man.
Fine.
I've been away too long, you've been away too long.
Oh, shush.
How about your build-up?
Right, my build-up, let's see, So, in regards to like JE Fusion and all those Toku-orientated sites that give off spoilers, leaks, rumors, and so on and so forth, and then when I heard that this one was going to be car-based, I thought it was like, is this going to be another Goonja? Pray to the Lord that it's not. Thankfully, it's not. And then you've got the suit when you had the actual silhouette of it first. I was like, okay, I can't tell. And then when you first see it, I was like, this looks interesting. Minus, and of course we'll tap this on or touch onto it more when we get to the actual appearance of the suits, but the actual tire around the chest, which was like the biggest gimmick, should we say, of the whole series alone. But it worked. The whole detective thing, the whole drive, it just felt so unique, so different, so fresh, actually, I should say. Very fresh. And I think it needed it. Rather than your stereotypical cafe or whatever, or fruit barn, cough, cough guy. And honestly, I just felt it just needed this difference, this change of pace. And I honestly...
So how would you say the pace compared to previous series?
Honestly, I felt like... It felt like a very... Okay, let me reword that. Predominant to almost every Kamen Rider, though I'll be more precise. It felt like Double's investigation style with Kiva's 2-episode per story theme, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think in general, Kamen Rider does better when it's got a two-parter.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Because Sentai is more sort of one
Yeah.
monster of the week.
Yeah,
But Kamen Rider does do better as a two-part, at least a two-part. If
I
it
mean,
wants to go three.
that's what I mean. Like with Double, it does that whole what's the mystery? Second episode, okay, this is the mystery solved, kill the monster, whatever. And this felt like that, only a bit more flowed, like flowing with
Like flowing, yeah.
like with more Kiva essence to it. It just like worked more. It flowed.
I think with Kiva, you got to remember that worked as a two-parter mainly because they were covering two
timelines. Yes, I'm aware,
Yeah.
but my point is that it just... I'm using both as an example because they both, I'm pretty sure, did 2-parters per one mini story.
Again, it's very typical Rider to be a two-parter, to be
True,
fair.
but those were the two most memorable for me. And secondly, I think it worked, and what's more, the fact that it was a detective thing. I'm going to loosely say again, because I don't know if you can Double as a detective, but that was more private investigation. But anyway, my point is it worked. I love it.
Sure. Okay, so what did we think of the story of Drive?
Starting with me, I would say the story as... Okay, it starts off by mentioning about the first global freeze and how the world has come to grips with it and so on and so forth. And then you have the build-up of the characters. It pretty much felt like it's divided into two halves for this season. It's like, literally, the first half is, at the very beginning, okay, we had Global Freeze #1, and then build up of the characters. Then the second half of the season was like, okay, we're going to introduce Global Freeze #2. And then
would you say that was comparable to Wizard? Because they did something
it
like
did.
that.
I see. No. Wizard was a bit more sacrificial, though, which I thought was a hell of a lot.
No, it was obviously sacrificial, but I mean, like, you had Wizard, like, there was the eclipse then.
No. I'll rephrase that. Wizard's ending, even though there was that stupid... Anyway, that last style of riders, which wasn't really needed to be in Wizard. But anyway, my point is that last twist of fate, how that they to sacrifice the city to resurrect his daughter, I thought was like the darkest twist ever. Whereas this was merely just to stop the world, literally just
the world,
literally just turn off gravity or literally just turn it on crank to maximum so you just don't move at all. Like,
That's funny.
it is. It's just, but, and I will say but, and we'll lead on to this again as well, that else, everything else, the characters, the story, well, not the story, but the whole suits, the action, some of it, everything else just was so good that the stupidity of the heaviness can be ignored.
That's it. One thing I will sort of say is I not roll with the heaviness thing. I mean, you look at Kabuto, for example. You know, it was a case of they sped up and everything else was slow, whereas like Drive, the heaviness made everything else slow, and they were still moving normally. And I just don't think it. I think the continuity severely lacked in doing heaviness.
Agreed. Like,
I will say, but talking about my sort of opinion on the story, the ironic thing for me is that you talk about first half, second half. Well, for me personally, I watched the first half of Drive week to week. I mean, then we went on hiatus. I also went on hiatus watching Toku. But when I came back, obviously coming back to it, I then watched the second half of Drive back to back. So I will say, watching the first half of Drive week to week, I generally found it a bit boring. I found like the quirkiness. I mean, the thing we've also got to bear in mind as well is where we've just completed a whole year of doing like Toku Bros. People can see what we've thought as it's been airing, but looking at it back in review, I can say, I remember like certain parts of the week, watching it week to week, and there were certain quirky bits, there were certain like sort of spikes in the story, but looking back, I literally do remember like the first half not really grabbing me as such. But watching the second half back to back, I was really gripped. I mean, the first half, I can't remember that much. Yeah, there was like a bit of mystery here and there. It was more, it was more of the two-part a week-to-week thing. But
I felt, honestly,
half,
wait, hang on, I'm going to intervene by saying, literally, for me, the first half of the entire season was pretty much just character development, and that's it, because...
I agree with that. I'll agree with that, and I guess that, I mean, there's only so, like, you can either spend too long on character development or not enough. So, you can't win. But I will say, like, the second half did have better story development. You had the Shinosuke side with his father. And, I'd say, like, towards the end of the first half, you did get all the big reveals as to Professor Bano. Well, you don't know his name at this point. But, Maha's father being the creator of the RyuKivas. And so at least in the second half, you do kind of see that sort of literally full throttle. You sort of get, get the story, you get everything, yeah. And, I kind of think that the climax, as far as some Rider series has gone, the climax wasn't too bad, but we can talk about final episodes later.
In regards to consistency, I'm going to throw this one... actually, I'll save that till later. But anyway, what do you want to incorporate now?
What do we think of the music of Kamen Rider Drive?
Yes. No, I mean, literally, just the opening of Surprise Drive, I think, is just fantastic. If I could... This and Double's opening and Ryuki's, one of my top...
Ryuki had amazing opening.
Yeah. But Double as well, and this one, honestly, are one of the most memorable, and 3, just... I'm every
That's
morning...
That's pretty badass, isn't it?
It is. Every morning, rather than skipping that 1.5 minute of opening, I am happy to just listen to it, and I actually see the opening as a build-up to the episode, rather than, oh, it's the opening, okay, let's start with the show. I feel it's part of the show, and I'm actually going to use a very long-shotted example, but like Tokuja, how it says in the opening, it's 7:30. We're about to start Tokuja. It felt like that in that it's the start of a show, but without.
I think that's what an OP is supposed to be.
No. But what I mean by that is how good the song was. It felt like it's a nice lead up to it, rather than okay, this was the opening. Now next, let's go on with the show. Do you see what I mean? Like Tokuja, okay, it's 7:30. Let's it actually says it's 7:30, so it's like clever. That's why I felt it was. I just loved it. I loved the opening. Every week, I would actually literally look forward to listening to it.
I will agree. I did enjoy, the fact that there was no prologue to each episode. It just like boom, OP. I love the OP. I mean, I always have Kamen Rider as my ringtone every year. I didn't just have Kamen Rider watching I didn't just have Ernest Drive watching Kamen Rider Drive.
Surprise Drive.
Surprise Drive. Ernest
Get
Drive
it right.
was the film.
Get it right.
Yeah, and I'll say have not just not just watching Kamen Rider Drive, but every time someone called me for a whole year, I would have that Surprise Drive play. So it was a cool song, definitely. When it comes to background music of Kamen Rider Drive, I will say it was very poignant. I'd say.
How do you mean poignant?
They were quite on point. They were quite. Like the music would emphasise each scene really well.
Agreed.
I mean, there was like one or two tracks from the BGM that really caught my attention, and as soon as the soundtrack becomes available online, I'm going for it. I'll also say that not something that we normally talk about. But the one thing I really liked about Drive is the sound effects.
That's interesting.
Yeah, so, not just the music, but even the sound effects. I mean, I really liked, just before he used his henshin brace, you'd hear this sort of like, that really sort of hyped me up to see him henshin. And, it was mostly Krim Steinbelt doing sort of the effects, type, speed, as I did earlier. And just sort of, just the rest of those.
Okay.
And then even when you had Machine Chaser, I just loved it. It's like, gone! It kind of, even for Signal Biker and everything, they had really bizarre effects, which I felt really stood out compared to other Rider series I've seen.
Quick thing. One, when you say about Drive and Krim Steinbelt and the special effects in regards to the henshin towards Drive, when you say are you referring to like when he turns the key and then just after he says start
just
your end?
Before he turns the key.
No. It's after he turns the key. He goes start your engine. He goes. And then he goes henshin.
Yeah, before he says henshin, definitely.
Yeah, no, but yeah, that's what I mean. So it's part of the belt. It's part of the henshin.
Yeah, it is. Like in
I was thinking for the past week or two.
In the Drive,
Spoiler alert, guys. This is take 2. But anyway, I was thinking, what on earth you're on about that until now, and I was like, oh, now I get it with your atrocious styles, but. No, I agree in regards to the sound effects of the belts and the henshin devices. Yes, they do work. Like, again, Krim Steinbelt as a character we'll get onto. Belts.
Like time, speed, or something. Yeah.
Or Maha Driver! And then, literally...
Signal Biker!
Yeah,
Maha!
Yeah,
is that
actually,
Italian?
You can actually do that. I hate to admit this, and I actually really hate to admit this. You could actually do that.
Brilliant.
No.
It's a shame we won't be talking about Drive after today.
Technically we will with the crossover with Ghost movie.
Yeah, that means I'll be talking about it, not you.
Anyway, but with and then you got the break gun of chasers. Yeah, no, but break your body kind of thing. So yeah, it just they all worked in their own way. So yeah, that's that.
Okay, let's talk about the characters of Drive. I'm going to start by chatting about Shinosuke.
So why the fuck did I just click my fucking knuckles?
Shinosuke. Anyway, I thought he was, I liked how at the beginning he was just sort of like a layabout. You kind of see him as sort of like a general layabout. What are you doing? Oi, cut that out.
Come on, continue.
Yeah, alright, listen to me. Anyway, so I liked how he was like a layabout, but as soon as he actually got his button gear, he would like just adjust his tie. Oi, cut it out! Right, and he. Oi, look at the camera when I'm talking to you. Anyway. So, Shinosuke, he was like a character that, I think a lot of kids would be able to associate with. Just, being able to use your brain, sort of put your potential in gear, no pun intended. And, I liked how, his character did, I think every rider has this in every series, just development. But I felt with Shinosuke, just sort of like getting to the bottom of his father's death really helped him grow. And then just sort of figuring out all the shift cars, really. How about you? Seeing as you're getting really antsy to talk.
Right. Bit by bit, per character, of course I'll start with Shinosuke. Donmari Shinosuke. I loved the way his character matured, grew as a whole throughout the season. I thought he show stealer, scene stealer, all of it, all but one or two other characters did they seriously. That he is one of the likable characters, shall we say? And for the record, I would say all the characters fit their roles brilliantly. This director pretty much is an equivalent, and I'm going to throw it up there, is almost like a Marvel director when they choose their actors, actresses, and put them in the right places, which I thought is brilliant. Like, I have not seen any good choice of actors and actresses as a whole this well since I'm gonna go on a limb and go as far back as Kiba.
Brilliant. Okay, what did you think of Maha?
Yes. I mean, at the beginning when he comes in and then you find him as a stalkish photographer that's acting like Shinosuke's rival, which I thought was brilliant, genius, and whatever, and then which worked. And then he comes in and then first handshake, he goes, Kamen Rider, Maha! Kind of thing is this very flamboyant rider and whatnot. And then what's more, he treats, or he sees Shinosuke as this idealistic bigger brother, so he keeps on calling him Shin Nisan or Shin Big Brother.
That's supposed to mean brother-in-law, apparently.
Well, technically, no, but that's right at the end, which will explain why. But then, it was more as an idealistic brother he was foreseeing as someone to look up to, which I thought was rather good. A bit repetitive. Huh?
Yeah. I said, well, carry on. I'll come back to your point in a minute.
I loved Go as a character. Again, with him, with his story, I loved the way that, oh my goodness, how that story unfolded of his, which I thought was ridiculously amazing. What I will mention, actually, when we get to costumes, I will mention to his as well. After you.
Yeah, well, Maha, what can I say? I loved his flamboyant first henshin.
Yes.
I was a bit like, are they trying to be retro with it? But I'll say, like, he did come out, like when he was first revealed, he was this guy from America. Like you did see his professor at some point, like even in the first half. Yeah, he was just like this flamboyant guy. He was the photographer guy. And then even when he got involved in the cases of the week or the two-part cases, he was always one step ahead. That was kind of what his thing was. But then as soon as Shinosuke sort of developed his senses a bit more, he kind of felt like he was a bit being left behind a bit, and that's when they bring Chaser in. And I think just bringing Chaser just changed his character. All of a sudden, you're seeing this darker side of him, and you're not seeing him being as flashy and flamboyant and one step ahead anymore.
Okay.
But you'll then see him reveal, oh, my father created the RyuKivas, and that just changed him again. And then just seeing how it all unfolded, he found his father in a tablet, and his father went nuts. It kind of brought out, he had like, you could call it character development, but I would see it more as like a character change, like his facade just completely changed.
One thing I will mention, by the way, one thing I was truly grateful, and I was fearing this when they mentioned that Go was, or when Kiriko, Shijima Kiriko, and Go being her younger brother, when she mentioned that her brother was in America and then he was coming over or whatnot, whatever, or the way they mentioned that he was coming from America, I dreaded that this was going to be like a ninja, Star Ninja entrance, how he was going to have a broken style Japan English sort of thing.
Well, he didn't, though, did he?
Thankfully, he didn't, which I was grateful. But I mean, with Star Ninja, it's that broken style mix
To be
of.
fair, Star Ninja came like X number of months after.
Fair enough. But then I'm going to use going back a year or two ago, when Kyoryuja's Kyoryu Sian came in, and
he was actually American.
Yes,
he was
actually American, and actually speaking broken Japanese, whereas in real life he can actually speak proper Japanese. But
then again, it's like you had Shinken Brown as well, if you remember, and Ava Ranger had some sort of...
Wait,
do you not remember Shinken Brown? He was like a one-episode jokey ranger.
Was it a special?
No, it was just a random episode where some random guy, some random foreigner became Shinken Brown for an episode.
That wasn't Shinkenja, that was Deca Ranger.
No. It was Shinkenja, trust me.
Alright, but anyway, my point is I'm glad that he still had that essence of Westernism, slight, but still...
But that's it, because you got to remember, Go wasn't... he was Japanese, he went over to America, then he came back. Whereas Star Ninja, he was... I don't know, as far as I'm aware, he was born and raised over there, and, he was quintessentially American. But, coming back to Go, and, you said something about, like, I can see what you mean about the whole, his relationship with Shinosuke being brotherly, like. But again, I think that's him coming off as Kiriko's younger brother. And again, it's something that I kind of took from the bat, is that, TVN literally did sort of reveal the moment he called Shinosuke Shin-Nisan. That's what they call brother-in-law out there. So I kind of just ran with that and just sort of, he looked up to him as a brother, sure. And, he was almost like pushing him and his sister together in a sense. And going from the second half, you see Chaser sort of seeing the bond between those two, and him like, oh, I think I have that with Maha as well. It didn't quite work until, obviously, spoiler alert, Chaser dies, and he's just like, oh, I love him, but what are you gonna do?
Okay, so who that'll be next?
Chaser. I'll go.
Ladies first.
Say, because I absolutely loved Chaser. I loved his character. He was probably one of the characters I associated with the most. Just being that sort of, he has a past. He had he was like the original Proto Drive. The Machine Chaser look, I absolutely loved that look. And then even when he became Chaser, when he left sort of like the baddie side, if you will, just his sort of like getting to grips with humanity, I kind of really, just sort of like that yearning for friendship with the others, wanting to be like the others because he was originally human, and you know, just sort of like wanting sort of Maha's appreciation and approval. It's something that I really associated with. Yeah, I think that's all I can really say about my Chaser. Really,
With,
what about you?
with Chase as a character as a whole, I loved Chase. That stoic, very.
He had a good fighting style.
He did.
Yeah, go
I'm
on.
not going to no. But what I was going to say was, I felt Chase felt like Data from Star Trek Next Generation with a slight concept of Pinocchio in that he wanted to become more human.
I want to be a boy. Go on. Yeah.
Or more the fact that he didn't have friends and he wanted to have friends, he wanted to become human, he wanted to learn what it means to be human and so on and so forth. So like Data as well, like this android that wants to become human. So I got the resemblance. I instantly, yeah, reference there, Easter egg, whatever, I don't care what you want to call it, but that was my Easter egg right there. In regards to his character as a whole, I loved it. I loved that dark, again, very monotonous, gruff.
I love the monotonous personality. Yeah, definitely.
And the stoic look, his very stoic face as well, just emotionless whatsoever. Just keeping it consistent constantly was. I don't know how he had the balls or patience to just keep it so
monotonous.
Yeah, monotonous, which was brilliant. With like literally, he's like the other side of the coin to Go, pretty much. That with Go being so flamboyant, and then on the other side, on the flip side, you have Chase, which is so monotonous, no emotion whatsoever, which I found was rather interesting. And it was like a very interesting partnership and pairing together when you see like one talks a lot and the other one just stares.
I liked his curiosity. I mean, the two scenes where he asks Shinosuke and Kiriko, "Oh, what do you think of? What do you think of the other one?" And they just start sweating and blah, blah. I mean, that was part of the comedy of Drive, but I just loved his delivery of it.
Yeah, I mean, not just that, but
so dry.
Otherwise, I will say that I loved it. I loved his Grim Reaper form.
Yes, Machine Chaser. Yeah.
And then
absolutely.
when we get to more in depth about the actual outfit of Chaser, yeah, that's when we're gonna clash horns, though, right? I'm gonna clash horns with you on that. And
so what do we? Yeah. Okay. So what do we think of the rest of the characters from Special Case Department?
I was gonna say, as a whole, as the Special Case Division, I loved them as a group. Individually, Kiriko, I didn't mind. She worked well as Go's brother. She fit the role perfectly. Yes, I can. Before you say, I know she's just a base for the fan service, as you would say. The chief, I loved. I loved the whole comical aspect of him he has with the whole horoscopes and the tarot aspects and everything, the superstition of everything. But then he has that other side of him where there's a fantastic scene where he's actually wearing Belt Sun, as in the driver.
I remember that. That was the second half. Yeah.
On the roof, he's talking to him, and his expression,
man.
Yeah, it's the true him. Almost, it's like he's taken off a fake mask, and it's like, whoa! I didn't see it was a good scene. And then what's more, you've got the IT nerdy guy, which he was a very likable young character. I was sometimes a bit passable, as in ignoring. Lina, the scientist, I loved her. Very eccentric, like Go, but more scientific, like girl. Maybe a tad annoying with her, "We'll do this, we'll really do it," kind of thing, very energetic. I just sound a bit too much, but anyway. I loved the detective that was brought in from First Division during the... I can't remember his name to save my life, but comment and write the comments, please. I know you'll be angry, guys. Where he had that problem where he couldn't pronounce Roy Mudo like you. He couldn't pronounce Roy Mudo, so he'll come out like a Roy Chocho or whatever, something stupid, which I loved, and it always cracks me up every week. Whatever stupidity comes out, is like, oh, really? But it still makes me laugh. Otherwise, the other characters, I'm gonna quickly tap on. Unless if you want to tap on the special case, and then I'll quickly.
I want to tap on special case before we go on to villains.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Right. So I think when you sort of look back on it, kind of like how you did, I can appreciate how they worked as a unit.
Yeah.
But I'd probably say that watching the series beginning to end, I'd probably say I'd sort of be more grabbed by the attention of how each individual was. I mean, like, I kind of liked a sort of austerity, like a sort of austere personality, sort of the one that reins Shinosuke in. But at the same time, I'd say, I didn't quite get the police outfit. I did kind of feel she was a bit of fan service. Yeah, I mean, I kind of thought it was quite comical the way it's like, oh, she doesn't smile. That's kind of like neither here nor there. I'll say as well, I mean, Rina-san is probably someone that did it more for me, simply because, she was sort of like the brains behind the operation. She was the one working hard. She was the optimistic. She almost reminded me of myself in a way. Then you got Taicho, the chief. Especially because I'm like the one saying about how I liked his tarot readings and today's blue, that means it's going to be a good day, or your lucky colour's going to be such and such.
And what's more, just a quick, I forgot to mention, when the chief is gonna go, or when he wasn't in an episode, you would have him as a poster board saying, I am away on holiday, look after everyone, or whatever. Just him on holiday as a cardboard cutout.
That was a specific arc I remember I remember what you're talking about, and I kind of think that went along with the quirkiness that was Drive, the humour that Drive had.
But it's never been done like that, and I loved it.
Yeah, I'll probably agree with the fact that Drive has a very unique humour. I mean, like you got the computer nerd guy. Again, he was very eccentric, and just even the storyline where he had Roy Mudo copy him, that was very unique in itself. And it's kind of like, I can see that coming from a nerd. And then there's two other characters. I mean, one you didn't talk about. You got the guy from First Division. I didn't really, I kind of liked his contribution to each case, but I didn't really see him, like, plot-wise doing anything, which I don't think he was supposed to. But the one guy that did have, like, a sort of plot sort of basis was the one guy who had, like, a superiority complex and was always trying to shut them down, was take Drive, allowed to henshin. And then it turns out he was the Roy Mudo that shot Shinosuke's father, spoiler alert. So I kind of thought he was, he went along with the quirkiness.
Wait. Are we hang on. Are we talking about the head of First Division or the guy that was the Minister of Defense?
Not the Minister of Defense. That was Roy Mudo 00 Ichigo 3. So
001.
I'm not talking about him.
I think
it was his little sort of second in command.
The lackey, his personal lackey. Yes, I know.
The one. I don't know if you remember it. It's where and this was kind of like when I started watching right at the beginning of the second half, was where he stopped. He banned Drive from doing henshin. It's like Shinosuke, you're banned from becoming Drive. And then Shinosuke asked Chase to take on his Roy Mudo form. And then he just bursts into Special Case Department. He's like, all right, you can henshin. Again, he was a very quirky character. He had like that real mad superiority complex, which I think in a way prepared us for Banno, but we'll get to Banno in a moment.
Before that,
was a very peculiar character in my opinion.
I thought it was a very acquired taste of a character, if you know what I mean. I thought,
But
to
you
me,
didn't. That's what
again, yes, that's why I say acquired taste. I thought it was a bit too much for my liking. Saying that, and
he was so in your face about it.
I was going to say, and this ties in what I was going to say about Chief, and we'll move on to, actually, Crimstein Belt, amazing. Just amazing. The voice actor, the actor, whoever the hell was, in the belt, behind the belt, whatever you want to call it, brilliant choice of casting, brilliant actor as a whole. The story with Crimstein Belt was fantastic. The chemistry between the belt itself and with Shinosuke is not like when you see Drive, it's not one but like double. It's two people in one. So I think and as a whole of the season, you feel like it's a partnership. Like with every detective, you have your partner. So with Drive, it's him and his belt plus Kiriko.
Although technically it was supposed to be him and Kiriko.
Yeah, supposedly. But anyway, my point is when you have Drive, he's not just fighting as Drive, but as Drive and Belt as Drive. And then when we get to Trideron as well, we'll get to that. Yeah, but I mean,
I'll say Crim, like
and
did like he was very sort of subtle.
yeah,
I mean, because the one thing that really sort of itching me watching the second half is knowing that the film Surprise Future has Crim Steinbelt being a villain, and I haven't seen Surprise Future yet, but I was waiting for some sort of subtle hint, but there wasn't one. But I do like how Crim Steinbelt is just like that guy. He's the one with all the stories, the one with all the info and all the tech. And it's just there was that very decisive point in the story where he goes up against Bano.
He's like the light. He's
Bano,
almost.
I hate you. And that was quite unusual for his character, for his persona.
Yeah.
And then I'll be honest, I actually sided with Bano. I'm like, oh no, surely not. But Crim turning out to be right, I was like, oh my god, I should have listened to Crim.
Same.
And so Go should have listened to Crim. Really.
Yeah, but the thing is I felt like, do you see sort of like
reason as well
with Crim being like a sort of slight, very suave, not cocky, but just a suave Einstein-esque.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, that's what. And then what I was going to say about the Chief is that if you think it now, with every character he speaks to, he adapts to their style, especially with the IT nerdy guy, is like Q-chan kind of thing in a very childish way. And to each other character, he adapts his style so subtly, you wouldn't even notice, but he speaks to them as though if he would to that specific character, if that makes sense.
I get you.
And I love that adaptability.
Right, so I'm going to go on to villains now, and I am going to kick off right now with my favourite villain of Drive, Professor Bamo.
Mm-hmm.
The guy is an absolute lunatic. He's so power hungry, he's just your cliche, I want to take over the world villain, he wants to make everyone into data. He's an absolute nutcase. I absolutely loved him because you look at the first half, you hear how there was a creator of the RyuKiva, you kind of think that's neither here nor there. You then hear Go say, oh, my father created them. You kind of think, oh, what's the story there? And I'll be honest, I went the traditional route that maybe, his father created them, but by accident, he didn't mean to, and they just went out of control. But then you then see him in tablet form, and you kind of think, oh, it sounds like he didn't mean to do it on purpose. He didn't mean
so innocent
to sort of innocently. But it's sort of like you get to a point in the second half where it's like, no, I wanted the RyuKiva to mess everybody up and convert everything into data. It's just like, wait, what? And just how he then just became completely insane. He's like, I need a new body. I'm going to take over this Romudo. I'm going to become Gold Drive. And wahahaha. I have Sigma, this bull thing. I'm going to the promised land. Blah, blah, blah. He's, you just wouldn't expect, you expect, right? I mean, especially Heisei Rider. You kind of expect, even like, you take, I mentioned Wizard earlier. Even the guy who was like White Wizard and the main villain of Wizard, I can't remember his alternative name right now, but where he was like the ultimate villain, and even though it kind of seemed a bit ludicrous that he was trying to resurrect his daughter, he was actually being serious. Whereas, again, ironically, even though that was like the main point of the story of Drive, it kind of went along with the insanity that is Drive overall. It just fit really well, but me personally, I didn't expect it. I was like, no, surely he created them by accident. No, he's a sociopath.
Yeah.
It was his intention, and he dismisses his son and daughter, and it just leads to like this massive complex and go. And it just drives him further and further and further. I absolutely loved it.
Do you feel that, okay, I'm going to add my interpretation to Banno. Like, first off, I completely agree wholeheartedly on every aspect of what you mentioned, that he starts off this innocent, oh, I'm stuck in a tablet, oh, I'm so weak, blah, 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 blah. And then, but then, once he gets released, once he gets himself transferred into a driver, what's more, when a Romudo gets hands on the actual driver...
Was it Tornado that he took over?
No. But anyway, my point is when that particular Romudo takes over, or just becomes the
Banno
actual...
takes over that Romudo, yeah.
No, not Banno. When that Romudo copies Krim Steinbelt...
Oh, you're talking about that?
Yeah, when he wears it, and then you see Krim in the belt talking to his actual self, Romudo, turning into the actual Krim Steinbelt, I thought was like, oh my goodness. It's like, and taking a quote out of a Face Off movie, or Face Off, the movie, it's like looking in a mirror, only not, kind of thing. In regards to when Banno when he gets into his gold drive and then becoming like this sociopath that you mentioned, it's like he cranks up his nuttiness or insanity to 20. He just cranks it up whole hard.
20 million.
Huh?
20 million.
Yeah, pretty much. Like, he's pretty much like Ryoma from Gaim times...
a million.
No, times Hitler. No, Hitler.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Okay.
It just...
I'll agree with that. I'll totally go with that. I'll roll with that, yeah.
Yeah, seriously. It's like, yeah. It's just so... And like you mentioned, like with the whole White Wizard style sociopathic thing, yeah, but that plan was only incorporated like right at the end, whereas with Banno, his devious plan subtly, you see it getting there, in there, and then all of a sudden, he develops his character so crazily, it builds up. Whereas with Wizard, in the White Wizard's plan, it's just okay, right at the end. It's just like the last 2 episodes. It's almost like a shoehorn.
Really sad.
Yeah, I wish they developed it more properly. I wish they built on that more, because that was a fantastic plan that was just shoehorned in right in the end. It was like, oh.
I mean, it was a rushed anticlimax, and then they did like 2 episodes for the Gaim running. It's mad.
Which we're not going to go there at all, ever. Anyway.
Well, I think we did. Anyway, but I'm going to talk about the rest of the villains. The thing is, because you had the Romudos, most of the Romudos did have a personality in itself that we could talk about for ages on end. But for this Drive review, I will talk about the ones I considered main or standout-ish.
Yeah.
I will start with Freeze, Double O Ichigo. He was, I liked how they did incorporate an actual minister of Japan in the show. That was quite cool. In terms of his character, yeah, you know,
Was
he
he
had the sort
actually?
of. I believe so. I believe I read that. Yeah,
Alright.
he's actually a minister in Japan. Yeah,
Wow.
I think I'll double check that, but whatevs. I'm pretty sure that's true though. I'm pretty sure I read that. Anyway, like, you know, he was that typical dry personality, but then I don't feel he had, like, you know, you'd expect, you know, someone like Double O, apart from Bano, you'd expect Double O Ichigo to have been like the main guy, but really it was Heart who was Double O Nigo. But Double O Ichigo Freeze, he, you know, I liked how he had like the main, you know, he had like a main twist in Shinosuke's father storyline. It, but yeah, I felt they could have done a lot more with him, but well, they just didn't because the whole, you know, the whole villainous side of the story, apart from Bano being at the end, you had Heart Double Onigo being sort of, you know, literally the organizer behind all the Roy Mudo, like reining people in, etc., and just going one on one with Shinosuke. I mean, at the beginning, he was just your typical Mwahaha villain, a bit watered down compared to Bano, definitely. But I did like how, especially in the second half, he develops his personality a bit more. He's more sort of alright. I'm sort of sussing. You know, he's more calculating in the second half. You know, you learn about his origin story, which I thought was very interesting. And then just sort of towards the end, he did become righteous. I liked that, and you know, he sort of, you know, even though he was Heart and his the ultimate evolution was based on joy, he actually had a lot of honor about him. That's what I really liked about him as a villain. That's Heart, and then you've got, again, I'm not sure about number order. You've got Medic. I liked her story. I kind of felt she was a bit. I felt her character was a bit shallow and a bit of a fan service again. But you know, sort of, you learn her story, you learn her origin story. I thought was quite interesting. And again, you know, she had a bit of, you know, there was a bit of prestige in her story, which I liked. Brain, I don't think there was that much development in him, but again, he had an honourable end, if you will. And, you know, just kind of his his power hunger was all, yeah, you could almost see that he was inspired by Bano. And, you know, he was, I don't know, I found the actor who played him, like, really quirky. I was a bit like, ugh. What other villains were noteworthy?
Other than Tornado.
Well, that's it. I mean, because I do vaguely remember Tornado, but nah.
Mm.
Go on.
I mean, for me, the only two standout villains, other than Bano, would be Brain and Heart. Honestly, it's almost like the I don't want to say Morecambe and Wise or the two Ronnies, sort of like, but they're like the first two you see, and they're almost like the two unofficial brothers of the Romudo kind of thing. That they started together, they almost finished together, sort of thing. With Hearts being all like, yeah, I have this Devil May Cry Dante style jacket look-alike kind of thing, but minus the sword, unfortunately, and the guns. But it's just that big, tough, gruff look, but with that, again, righteous honor fight, like evil samurai, but with that honor still retaining, I liked. Heart being this, a lighter toned Bano slash Ryoma, just very lighter tone, but that still, again, that nuttiness, pretty much, I like. Medic, pass. I'm sorry, I don't know what to say other than I'll just skip her. Literally. I mean, I couldn't even understand the whole white-black medical thing. Literally,
I did.
eh. Anyway, and then, I mean, don't get me wrong, when she had that story, that 1 or 2 story episode about her,
Because
fine.
it relates to her power. You know, that is very plot driven. So I did like that aspect of her origin story and just how she was.
The thing is, it's just her character. It's just it felt that her character was so vanilla, so bland, that just those 2 episodes was like, oh, that was there. Okay.
I think considering that she was she was quite an adversary to Brain. She could have been a bit more. She could have had a bit more personality. But what are you going to do?
And then like, what's it? Also, the minister is like, okay, he's there. Yay. But the fact that
Well, no, he was alright. He was alright, but I thought we could have done.
no, I mean the fact that, and I'll admit, the fact that he was the cause of the first global freeze, that was interesting. Saying that is like, okay, so they defeated the person who created the first global freeze. Now what? Kind of thing, which I.
About his involvement with the first global freeze, but I think it was more of a case of
He was.
how he instigated everything surrounding Shinosuke's father.
Well, not just that, but also the fact that I think, and I'm sure you agree with me, as a whole, the fact that how Banno, not instantly, but became such a show scene stealer character as a villain, almost just pushes aside everyone of how much of a character, full-on character he is. And it's almost like when you see Banno, Medic doesn't exist. If that makes sense. Honestly, it's like
Well, I mean, because again, Medic was quite a plot device for Banno.
yeah, device. That's my point. It was like a puppet. She's just literally a puppet. It's like she's there, like hi. When even Banno's on the screen with Heart, and Heart's just like hi, and then Banno's just this whole.
I think that was the point. You know, these were all Banno's experiments, and Krim was the one who didn't approve.
Anywho,
So should we move on? And it's something you've been sort of hyping for a bit.
please,
Costume
yes.
and outfit.
Can I go first?
I'll let you go, seeing as you've got ants in your pants. Go for it.
Right. Starting off with the generics, moving on to the goods. So starting off with the special division and the police outfits. Just to get that one off the bat, I loved it. I love the uniqueness of the fact that again, you know, it's in a police station, and you know, some of them.
Oh.
Like, the chief has his own, you know, police uniform, so does Kiriko. The first division guy has his, you know, actually a suit. Rinna has that lab coat and style, and it just, everyone fits. Even that IT nerdy guy is almost like he comes in as an intern, but it pretty much wears casual clothing, but it still works because of his character, and I loved it. Shinosuke as well wears his detective suit, so that works as well. I loved it. I loved those suits. Now, the rider outfits. Drive, yes. I love Drive. Base. The base form is brilliant. Just quickly touching on to each one. Type Wild, this black, almost like a SUV Humvee that's thrown onto him, like
It matches the vehicle, to be fair.
yeah, just a tad armored up. Looks good. I'm not going to deny it. It actually looks good. Technique, green, like a lime green.
Reminds me of the guy from Ryuki, the green one from Ryuki.
What, the chameleon?
No, the guy who was a rich lawyer. I forget the name.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, I know which one you mean.
He had like massive bazookas on his shoulder.
What was the animal? What was the animal?
I forget. That's it. I totally forgot.
I know who you mean though. Oh,
He's technically the third rider of Ryuki.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Well, that's gonna stick. That's gonna suck now. I don't remember his animal now. Damn it, bollocks. Oh well. Yeah. So again, if anyone remembers what the hell he's on about, yeah, just type below. And then type formula, very different, very unique, very blue. Again, as though if a F1 car just drove right behind, drive's head kind of thing. Otherwise, and then the ultimate form, Trideron. Type Trideron, I think, made up everything. It just sums up Drive as a whole. When Trideron just literally breaks up and just fuses, in a good way, with Drive. What's more, when he can change seats with Krim, Stein Belt. So Belt takes over Shinosuke in Type Trideron, and so literally two different people as one in one form, and then even the fighting style is different, which we'll get to. But it just works so well. They could have done that Type Trideron so much worse because of the whole fuse with the car thing. It could have been so much worse. But thankfully, it looks amazing. With Maha, it's very basic, but still very good as well. Very motorcycle-esque themed with that whole traditional Ichigo style scarf flailing off him.
Yeah.
Has got some nice red streaks and whatnot. Whatever. I love his dead heat form, but Drive has a dead heat form. But then, no offense, but
They both do.
They both did, but Drive pretty much hands it over to Maha. And then honestly, it's not, with Drive it's like whoop-de-doo-dah, but for Maha it feels like a proper upgrade though, which A, looks better, and 2, he uses it well. When Maha, every time he powers up or whatever, not only does he just press it once on a driver, but he just like slaps the fuck out of it on the belt, which I was like, fuck, he's pissed. Otherwise, there's one other form, unofficial form, that he does, which I thought was very brave of the producers to include, mixed with Chaser. I shan't say that just yet, but yeah, so with the Green Reaper, so Chase into his Green Reaper, I loved. I thought it was unique having a Roy Mudo fused with a slight Proto-Drive-esque thing. It was almost like an android-ish thing. But I loved the uniqueness of it. I've never seen anything like it, so I loved that. I loved his weapons, but then we'll get to that in a moment. In regards to when he gets his belt, now this is again where we're going to lock horns, because he doesn't get a driver, he gets a Maha driver. Secondly, he doesn't use the Proto Drive, he uses a signal bike Chaser to become Chaser, Kamen Rider Chaser, which is pretty much a Silverman in spandex.
Nice.
I'm sorry, it's like a silvered. What's his face now?
Pause.
Thanks. It's pretty much like a glossy silver force. Literally. And I'm just so... I feel like they missed a chance in bringing in Proto Drive. Honestly. I was so disappointed in that. For you it might be meh, but for me I was like, oh, that was a lie. Saying that, I'm glad that they're bringing out SH figure art of Proto Drive. Yeah, which I actually love to look at. And see, that they should have put in the show.
Well.
While I regurgitate on that, you enjoy. Go on. I've got my
Okay, so sort of going from the bat, as you say. I mean, for like the well, not necessarily civvies, for the SP, the special case department. It was all pretty generic. You had Rinner in a lab coat. You had the nerd guy in his nerd gear. You had Taicho in his Taicho gear. The same for the First Division guy and the ministers and whatever. But like Kiriko again, what was, why? I mean, seriously, did they have to put her in that stereotypical fan service police uniform? But what you're gonna do? I mean, one you didn't touch on is like what the villains looked like civvy wise. Like Hart had a very sort of really cool jacket. I mean, Medic, it's like, really, are you going to a funeral? And
Yeah, I see that. Like a
like the
Lolita,
monsters.
it's like a Lolita going, almost like Corpse Bride. It's like
No,
Corpse Bride.
maybe Corpse Bride, but not Lolita. Anyway,
It is.
but I'll say no. I disagree with that.
Shut up.
Anyway, but the monster forms, they were kind of like typical monster-ish, and then they decided to paint them gold for their armaments. Fair enough. But going straight onto the suits, Drive again, just off the first bat, he looked absolutely amazing. When it came to Type Wild, and I just agreed with absolutely everyone on this, being like a Halo fan. Just look at him, Master Chief. But his Type Wild vehicle upgrade was quite cool. Type Technic, I just, I mean, even the sort of vomit green aside, I just didn't like the look. I just really didn't like the look. But Type Formula, he looked bulky, but it was still cool in a way.
Did you feel like when Formula hit the TV screen that it felt like it was the start, not the dawn, but like it felt like a new beginning?
Kinda. But that's the thing though, because like there was so much hype for Type Formula, and then just it wasn't long afterwards that they then introduced Type Trideron, which I feel like shouldered down was kind of like meh, okay, but the helmet I felt really mixed about. But when it comes to Type Trideron, it's not necessarily the look. I think it was more the functionality of switching between Krim and Shinosuke. That kind of did it for me, really.
Yeah.
Coming to Maha, I mean, I'm a massive fan of Top Gear, so literally I see Maha, I just thought, the Stig. I'm like, oh, some say he's the Stig's Japanese cousin, There, and like he had the aesthetic sort of rider scarf motif. That was pretty swish. I also like how Go's jacket matched his henshin.
I found that very.
That was quite swish.
That was. It was very subtle, like obvious, but subtle at the same time.
I'd say it was the opposite. So I'd say it was very in your face. Like he loved the fact that he was Maha, man.
True.
And, like anyone who sort of like goes on the internet and buys that jacket, they are being just as cool as Maha. You got to realise that. I mean, when it comes to,
I mean, you could almost see as a product placement. Go's flamboyism, Go's personality, and
his henshin.
And his henshin reference that he is Drive. He is very,
Maha.
I don't give a shit.
He's Maha, yeah. When it comes to Chaser, I mean, his purple jacket is also something that's very popular look amongst fans. Yeah, I also agree with that. I think it's a very cool jacket. He has a very sort of biker, sort of like badass biker appearance. And then, you look at Machine Chaser, it's got that very sort of scrapyard look.
Right. Whoa. Are you talking about the bike Machine Chaser?
No, the character.
Oh, right. So, you got Chase as the character, you got the Grim Reaper, which is his first...
Grim Reaper is Machine Chaser, right. Yeah, and then, of course, when it comes to Kamen Rider Chaser, I can see the spandex sort of look, I can see the fours look, but I like how sort of like the helmet, the sort of the upper chest armor does actually look good in my opinion.
I still think,
and he looks sleek, he looks he looks built for speed.
True. But do you see where I'm coming from? That there was a missed opportunity there.
In what sense?
Proto Drive.
Meh, I mean, I mean, if anything, I just assumed they were going to bring him back as Proto Drive at some point, but, instead they just brought him from bad to good and gave him a whole new rider Rider Henshin for it. Bearing in mind that storyline wise, that was what Maha rejected. Let me
True.
think. I don't think I've missed anyone. But yeah. Oh, and of course, Gold Drive. Gold Drive. It's just it really did have a very sort of it had like a very sort of chic look to it. So I did really enjoy that.
For me, Gold Drive. Okay, with the Gold Drive driver or the Gold driver, the actual belt itself, I couldn't give a crap about Banner being on the face of the thing. As a whole, though, the Gold Drive outfit I loved. I'm not gonna deny that. It felt like it felt like a new page for villain riders. Like you have RyuKiva, Ryuga, you've got Oja
So
for
it's opposite. It's
yeah,
kind
like
of the
even
opposite.
Dark
No,
Kabuto.
it's rather than dark, it's
It,
gold.
it felt very
Refreshing, in my opinion.
what?
It felt refreshing, in my opinion.
Yeah, very fresh, very refreshing. It's a
Refreshing, yeah.
yeah, I know it's a tomato potato, but still, it just and what's more, it tied in nicely, subtly as well with that whole gold evolution thing. But rather than Bano having his
Wonderful.
monster form being or evolution, the fact that he had a gold drive was genius,
It was.
incorporating into the whole gold evolution thing, and he was part of the four evolved thing.
I think
Genius.
that confused the other three. That's like, oh, you're counting yourself as one of the evolved, one of the promised number.
I thought the fact that the whole evolution gold thing, that it was actually the him as a Kamen Rider was genius. What's more, and
It was
I'm just
pretty badass, especially when he had that sort of weapon grabbing and shift card grabbing thing that he did.
yeah, I'll get to that on choreography, but still, just a quick tap on a well, not fan service, but some Toku news that's, well, not Easter egg, but I recently saw that on
You're going to
Toku.
mention Flash, aren't you?
In short, whilst we're tapping on the outfits, that it was mentioned that Drive looks like Flash in the reference of the color scheme, and then you've got Gold Drive, pretty much was like the reverse Drive in the whole yellow aspect, and then you've got Surprise Drive from the movie, which is pretty much that looks like Professor Zoom.
I
This
don't know any of these Flash characters.
need not fret.
In my
Your
opinion,
call. Go for
I
it.
think it's coincidence. I just think it's coincidence. I don't think it was deliberate. It might have been, but I remember you were quite fascinated by that. But I saw that I think about a few days ago, give or take. But again, to me, it's neither here nor there because there's a lot of fan theories out there. But
Your go.
yeah, alright. Alright, so rolling on, what do we think about the weapons and henshin devices of Kamen Rider Drive?
Right. I thought they were hilarious. I think they deliberately did a whole what do you call it, retail aspect on it by naming it so simply. And that's like, for instance, when he gets or Rinna designs a sword that has a steering wheel on it, and then literally
Well, Shinosuke named those
as handle sword or handle Ken. And I was
because
like,
that's what was because a TV end note was handles is what they call the wheel in Japanese.
yeah. So, and then what's more, just to make it even
It's
more is stupid but hilarious at the same time, like slapstick joke. He gets a car door with a gun on it, or vice versa, a gun with a car door on it, and a door gun. He calls it a door gun. And then he gets a bazooka that's in the shape of a trailer.
Trailer cannon.
Yeah. Oh, well, cannon, bazooka, whatever. Which I thought was like, okay. So not only is it for like market, but I thought it was just simple. And then when you see him labeling the door gun, it's like all this pretty animated sparkles. Like, oh, I love you, door gun. I'm gonna call you door gun. And it's like door gun labeled.
It was a really nice dog gun.
I
Yeah,
mean,
I thought it was quite clever how he opens and closes it to refill it.
charge. I
To
admit
reload.
that method was clever.
Oh, and even the handle gun, even the handle sword, he'd pull on the steering wheel.
To
Nuts.
turn though, but by appearance, I love the handle cane. I love the trailer cannon. Uh,
They look
they look good. The door gun, I thought was a bit chunky for me, but aesthetically. Functionally, I can see it. Now, who else?
Oh, right.
Maha's.
I'm,
I
I'm getting to this now.
I
My
got
turn.
that. As
No,
Maha's.
no, so, let's see. I mean, henshin devices. I thought Drive was a bit OTT. Like he had he had both a belt and a henshin bracelet. I thought that was a bit much. I mean, I love the belt,
Uh,
and I liked how he used the shift cars in the hand, in the bracelet. But I just felt there could have been like another way of doing it. But nonetheless, I kind of rolled with it. The shift cars, I loved how they each, they all sort of had their own gimmick. I thought that was quite special. Yeah, and even their own sound effects, which I already covered. And only some of them had like a unique suit form, mainly Wild and Technic and Formula. And I'll say that for Maha and Chaser, their sort of belt, it was quite generic, but I loved how as you said earlier, they'd tap on it and it'd rev them up. Let me think. And then coming to the weapons, I mean, I love door gun, just the way it sort of like open and shut it, sort of handle gun as well. And I'll also say that, when it comes to Maha and Chaser, they both had a gun each, but I'd say they wouldn't. I'd say that they wouldn't. They could they could have like made more of it. Like especially with when you had Machine Chaser as the Grim Reaper, he'd have like the dark shift cars. But of course, when it comes to Chaser, it's when he becomes Kamen Rider Chaser and he has his signal axe. I love the gimmick of that and just being able to he had the traffic lights and stuff. And like he'd have like the axe telling him when to sort of like attack. I thought that was a really good gimmick.
For me, Maha's. Okay, just finishing off with Drive's henshin belt and bracelet and whatever. I actually didn't mind it. I thought it was a cleaner style to Tokujas. Like incorporated the whole Bluetooth-esque bracelet, but at the same time had a proper belt. It wasn't too chunky like Fours. It wasn't. It just worked. And what's more, you've got the Maha driver as well. Again, not too chunky, and it had a slightly different voice, but still did the same style gimmicky voice, which I loved. In regards to the weapons, for Maha, he had his Zenrin shooter, which was like weird, but alright. It's almost like he's throwing a pinwheel on the handle with a gun. So maybe, I guess, kind of, sort of. With you sleeping there?
No.
Oh, you look like you're nodding off. With Machine Chaser, or are you looking at your fucking phone?
No.
All right. So with what was I gonna say? Machine Chaser or the Grim Reaper, when he gets his that form, and then he has a whole arsenal on his back or arm or whatever, with the whole bat, spider, cobra thing. Okay, scorpion. whatever. So I guess it works. And then, but then, I completely agree. When he becomes Chaser, when he gets his Shingo Axe, that's when it shines. That's the best weapon I've seen in that show, without a doubt, no spots or whatever. And then just the comical aspect when he first appears and he gets the axe and then he presses the finishing button and it tells him to wait a minute. So he puts it down, starts attacking the villains randomly, and then picks it up. Axe tells him, okay, you can go, as though if you were literally crossing a zebra crossing kind of style, and then just finishes it. I just thought it was brilliant and hilarious. I loved it. Over to you.
So, what do you think of the vehicles in Kamen Rider Drive?
I'm gonna sum it up in a very smushed. Ride boosters, as in the flyers, I couldn't give a shite about whatsoever. The Maha's bike, I didn't mind. It was alright, possible. The machine chaser, or the Grim Reaper chaser, whatever the hell that bike's called, I actually love that, with the whole skull on the front of the bike, and the fact that they become ride booster together. That was alright. A 4x4, two bikes together thing. Alright, possible. Trideron, brilliant, just brilliant alone, and also Easter egg that Trideron was as a extended name to, was it from Black RX? Was it Rideron? Rideron, that was it. Black RX's car. What's more, the fact that Trideron, hence Tri, has three forms. So you've got the base car mode, and then Type World, which pretty much becomes like an off-road car, and then Technic when it gets pincers.
I think they must have decided that wasn't a good gimmick because they didn't really expand on that after the first half. I mean, because there was potential in it with, either the other forms or type formula.
Agreed.
But you just didn't really see it develop after that. I mean, I'll say just in general, I said this earlier, I felt it was really brave that they went for another car theme. So long afterwards, and bearing in mind that they spent the last few years sort of really trying to bring the bikes back into it. Because you look at series like Hibiki, even Deno, which really had the bikes in the trains. They kind of went away from that. So that even in Wizard and in Gaim, they really tried to sort of bring bikes back in a way. Like especially in the early episodes of Gaim and Wizard, you'd see the bike quite predominant. So to go with a car, it's kind of people felt mixed about it. When it comes to like Maha, it was kind of like, he's going to be a typical rider, even though he's only the second rider. When it comes to the fact that Machine Chasers or Grim Reapers bike being able to mix with Maha's, being able to combine with Maha's, that's quite cool. But yeah, when it came to like the little add-ons for Trideron to fly, I thought that was a bit there. But Wild Type Technique, they were good gimmicks, but again, just the fact that they kind of left it dead there, it just kind of felt a bit bland.
You thought it was a missed cause?
Not necessarily a missed cause. I just felt, they could have either run with that idea, but they kind of didn't. So, I'm going to go straight on to talking about the choreography of Drive. I'll say that I really felt that they added they relied so much on the CGI, but when I compare it to a Super Sentai like Go Onja, I felt that the choreography and just the CGI involved was literally Go Onja done right. They really mixed it really well, and you did have Drive sort of dashing around. I think the heaviness played a part in its choreography and CGI. But I'll say that, especially in one of the team, especially in the Gaim Drive team up film, they really got the choreography done really well. So there was definitely the potential for it in the series, but I think most of the decent choreography actually did come from Chaser.
That is actually true. I mean, in regards to choreography, although the action sequences I would say is very standard, some of the fight sequences. However, and I use however, like agreed that Chaser has his own unique, different style set of skills, but at the same time, when Drive becomes Trideron or Type Trideron, that's when you see a whole new level of fighting style. Not only does Shinosuke fights as Drive Type Trideron, but to be able to swap places with Krim Steinbelt in that form, and then you see a whole different personality in there. That suit actor is a fucking fighting style as well and that suit actor is a fucking genius to be able to pull that off. So hats off. Literally, you can tell like it's two different people in there. Like almost makes you think it's two different people in there. So it's just brilliant, well pulled off. I don't have anything else to say on that. In regards to against the villains, I'm sorry, I will say it's very generic, except for Banno. When he is able to steal all the weapons from all the riders, I was like, damn. Okay, they're fucked. But otherwise, all the other villains I felt was very rudimentary. Alright, they're commanders, they're strong. Yay! Kind of thing. Not to sound boring, but...
So what do we... It's alright, no, I think that's a good point. What do you think of the sets and locations of Kamen Rider Drive?
Right, with the fighting places, I'd say it's very rudimentary again, very generic. But the one that really sticks out in my mind is the pit stop and the secret base of Drives and Trideron. Like it's like Double's base meets the Batcave, pretty much. And two, the secret division. Sorry, the special divisions office, which I thought was again unique. It's not like your stereotypical cafe or juice bar, which I thought was rather nice and fresh and unique, and I loved it. I just thought it was a nice change.
Well, I mean, you look at, you mentioned that sort of, the special case space. I'll say that's quite comparable to Ryuki's sort of press office. So it's not that original, but it still worked pretty well. It wasn't too bad. I mean, the pit stop, it did look absolutely fabulous. I loved the aesthetics of it, the fact that it was like a driver's pit. I mean, like, for the villains, I loved how they mixed it up quite a lot. But again, after that, it does get a bit sort of
rudimentary,
seen before sort of thing. But I don't think it was a bad thing though. I mean, I think there was quite a few sets, like when you had Chaser use Signo Axel the first time, they were fighting in an area where there was like lots of cylinders everywhere. I thought that was quite cool. So, like even the fight scenes had some sort of originality to them.
Brackets on some, though.
Some, yeah. You mean inverted comma, but anyway. Alright, so I think, just before we go on to final thoughts of Drive, I'm going to talk about the films and specials.
Okay, enjoy.
No, I want you putting your phone down for this. Right. No, mainly because, alright, I'll start off by talking about Kamen Rider GP.
Right, you start.
This is Kamen Rider. This is like the Kamen Rider Tyson film of the year. And actually, in my opinion, it's actually, especially seeing as the last year or two, I did say pay attention, boy. Yeah. Right, put your phone down. Right, anyway, so Kamen Rider GP, I will say it's actually one of the better of the Kamen Rider Tyson films. It's definitely the better of, and you can cite and whatever, but I love the fact they brought like a comic character that didn't really have a basis in the series.
Explain
They
that for the
brought him.
viewers.
Right, well, basically you've got Kamen Rider Sango because you've got the original Kamen Rider Ichigo. You've got his sort of secondary rider who was Nigo. But
And
then
then
the second
V3,
series,
you got
yeah, but then
Ichigo,
the second
Nigo, and then
series,
V3.
this is it, because the second series of Kamen Rider was actually Kamen Rider V3. And a lot of people just assumed, oh, he was the third rider, he is Sango. But, there was a comic that was released just before V3 saying, oh, actually, there was a Sango, an actual Sango. And he was like, he drove a car. So they kind of played a somewhat alternative spin on it. They said that he sort of went back in time and messed up the timeline, and I mean, because I originally thought that Kamen Rider GP was Kamen Rider Drive going back in time, but it actually wasn't. It's someone else going back in time, Sango, messing up the timeline, and then you're brought to present day where present day Japan looks like North Korea. And it was quite bizarre. Yeah, this is why this is a must. Out of all the Tyson films, this is definitely must see.
Would you say this is one of, and I'm going to go out on a limb and asking this and like this, is this film, this solo film? Oh no, wait, no, lies, I can't say that because this is a Tyson
I don't know what
film.
you're asking. What are you trying to ask?
Sorry, my bad. I was going to say, because this isn't the official Drive movie. Surprise Drive is the.
No, that's not being released. On,
right.
that's so.
I'll rephrase that then. With all the Tyson, because you had movie Tyson 20
this
whatever.
This is the fourth Tyson film because you got Superhero Tyson Z, and then Kamen Rider Tyson, which was the one Showa versus Heisei.
Is this up there?
This is a lot better than I mean, bearing in mind I didn't like the last two. I liked the first one, didn't like the last two. This one is definitely better than the last two in my opinion.
Because the first one oriented around Decade, wasn't it, if I remember correctly?
It was Decade versus, well, it was mainly Super Sentai versus Kamen Rider, what the fans were playing out for. Specifically Gokaiger versus Decade. Whereas like this one doesn't have a specific so-and-so versus so-and-so. I mean, it's still called a Tyson film. But, like you look at last year's Tyson film, which was Showa Riders versus Heisei Riders. And, there was this massive thing in Japan, a thing in Japan, where they voted on who did you think would win out of Showa versus Heisei, and Heisei won the vote. Whereas this year, there was none of that, and there wasn't the restriction of Showa versus Heisei. It was literally a case of, Shocker's taken over certain riders, and certain riders are rebelling. And it was a mixture of Showa and Heisei. There was Showa and Heisei on one side, there was Showa and Heisei on the other. And, like, the climax of the film was literally just random riders just going at it at each other. That kind of made the film, and again, that was where all the decent choreography was. It's literally in this one film. I mean, storyline was a bit basic, but it did okay. I mean, it was a bit sort of, the fact that they brought it down to a Grand Prix, hence GP. That, you could either criticise it or just let it go, but, I didn't feel any different. I felt indifferent towards the whole GP aspect of it. But, sort of the whole altering the timeline, the fact that Ichigo and Nigo were supposed to have been killed, and then just the fact, and obviously your typical ending of the riders win. It was actually a good film in my opinion.
Just a tap on for the special guests in or cameo appearances in Kamen Rider GP.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, because you got Fires because he appeared in Showa vs Heisei last year, and that was neither here nor there because they were celebrating 10 years of Fires. And like Decade made his appearance last year. That's 5 years of Decade. But both did Decade appear in GP, but Fire's made another appearance. I was just like, oh, Fire's again. But what I liked about this year's Tyson film was like how they kind of brought the Blade characters back, or specifically Garen. And who else did they bring back? They brought back like the Black RX rider, the actor, and I thought these were two very good cameos. And just the way they brought Blade, like Blade had really good choreography, and the four riders of Blade. Even though you only had the one actor, Garen, it's still, you kind of had their sort of presence there. They were quite integral to the plot. And that's what I'll say for the Blade characters, the Blade riders.
So he wasn't just there as a face for Team Blade?
Well, technically he was, but again, Team Blade did have...
I know that sounds very...
They kind of... Because the thing about Kamen Rider GP was, I was actually quite confused for most of it. Because it's like, you've got, which rider is it? It's Sango himself. Because you've got him as a baddie at the beginning when he sort of jumps back in time. And then you're not sure whether he's a good guy or a bad guy. Then it's revealed he's a bad guy, but then he's actually got a conscience, so he starts acting on behalf of the good guys. And it just really plays with your brain. And again, the Blade characters do exactly that as well. Now, I think theirs is more simpler, that they started off bad, then they started acting good, but then really they were bad, and then they became good again. It's really confusing, but it's still a really good plot, in my opinion.
Okay, tell me about Sango's actor, or if the character played well or whatever.
I'd say, in terms of acting, there wasn't that much acting to do. But he does it okay. Yes, I think when it comes to Sango, it's more about the aesthetics, the fact that he has a belt similar to Ichigo Nigo, just a little more flashier, like they updated the CGI for him. His car was alright, it was a bit of a rip-off of Trideron, to be fair. In the film itself, I think a lot of fans agree with me that it was a rip-off. You mentioned Trideron earlier. Trideron only appears in CGI form when really that he's a car. Trideron's a car. They should have put a bit of effort in, but never mind. I'll say, when it comes to acting in the film, I think it's more that I think sort of Shinosuke really comes through on it, because you've got like him sort of questioning himself. Because in terms of other cameos, you've got Zeronas, the secondary rider from Den-O. He's quite, he was quite a funny actor in Den-O, whereas here he's more of a sort of plot driver. He's like, oh, go this way, go that way, listen to him, don't listen to him. It's, it's not too bad an appearance from Zeronos. Let me think. I don't think there was any other cameos, but again, I will say that GP is definitely a must-see. If you've got time, just download it and watch it.
Fair enough. Right, so just to round off on final thoughts, starting with...
Not really, because there's another film and two specials. It's alright, I'll be brief on these ones. Alright, I'll go on to two specials, just because I can't remember that much about them.
Lol.
You've got episode 0, which gives you an origin story to the series itself. I kind of felt that it wasn't really necessary as it was implied, but you still get to see Proto Drive, you get to see the invasion of the RyuKiva, you get to see sort of Shinosuke shooting his partner back then, who ends up in a wheelchair. But, I actually think at least they bothered doing it, even though it wasn't necessary, but it was still good to see. Then you've got... I can't remember the name of it. It was either called Hyperspeed or something. One where Kiriko tries to henshin and stuff.
I heard about that. Yeah, I thought that. Okay.
Yeah, that was.
Isn't that the special DVD?
Yeah. It's the Hyper Battle
Yeah.
Kodansha DVD or something.
Yeah.
And I kind of thought, yeah, it's all right. They're trying, like the main, like the story in a nutshell is they're trying to source who's giving out fake copies of Terry-Kun magazine. It's like, all right. Wasn't really necessary, but they do these things anyway. The one special I can't talk about is the Yongo DVD special because it's not been subbed yet. Which again is, again, I will a bit of a spoiler, but at the end of the GP film, they do have like a throw out to the Yongo DVD, and I'm just dying to see that special, and I will talk about that in the Toku Talk once it's out on sub. Now the other film is the one that I have seen is Gaim versus Drive. Again, this is it. This is it because it is actually a formula where they do normally do the story in three parts. You've got the old Riders story, the new Rider story, and then the two stories coming together. So this followed that formula, but I will say I kind of didn't like the Gaim's story. It was a bit bland. Bearing in mind that I really liked Wizard versus Gaim, all three parts. The Gaim part to Gaim versus Gaim X Drive, I didn't really sort of connect with the Gaim part, especially where it's like you've got what's his name, Kota being that blonde He-Man thing again.
He-Man.
But I like, like they brought back. I'm not even sure whether it was a Roy Mudo or Enves. But you got this sort of being. I think it was neither, to be fair. You had this being just sort of. You had this being sort of like just trying to take over the multiverse, and like Gaim really sucked at doing it. Then Drive was sort of establishing himself, and then they come together. They mix up their forms. So you've got,
Drive type fruits.
And,
yes, I'm.
And then type. No, what was it called? Was it called Type Fruit?
Yeah, so you've got Drive type fruits, and then you've got Gaim type Drive.
Drive Arms.
Yeah, Drive Arms.
Drive Arms and Type Fruit. Anyway. So, they kind of looked a bit weird in my opinion. I think they were supposed to. But I did think that, like again, they kind of bring it down to an art where they just, they bring the two stories perfectly together at the third part. The ironic thing is where you've got Drive versus Drive X Ghost coming out at the beginning of next year, they've actually thrown away this formula and they're making it one long story arc like Sentai normally does.
Damn.
So I think that's going to be interesting when that comes out. Just as I haven't seen Surprise Drive, from what I know of it, actually looks good. And again, I'm really curious as to why Krim is the villain. Let me think, there was something I was missing. Because when you look at the Tyson film, again, when you look at Kamen Rider GP, again, you've got because I think it's the thing now where Sentai's not really in it anymore, apart from when they bring the mecha in. So you do have like Drive having like a little robot thing that then drives the Shinobi thing, the Shuriken Drive. So there was that so they had like their little special for that, and then Ninja makes its appearance in Kamen Rider GP. But I think just in terms of all the specials, in terms of all the sort of additionals, Kamen Rider GP was definitely the best. So let's go on to final thoughts, because I know you're dying for it.
Ladies first.
Final thoughts. Well, I wouldn't recommend this as a starter series, but I'd recommend this to people who are already fans of the show. It has its good parts in the plot, but I just think people who might not like the quirkiness might want to give this one a miss, but who knows?
That was very rounded. I would say first off, and I forgot to tap onto this for the story, I love how the last episode or two actually ended. I loved how the whole post Krim was incorporated with a nice prologue to Ghost. almost as though if it was like an episode 0 to Ghost kind of thing as an introduction. I loved how that was involved. I loved how in the penultimate episode, in episode 47, I believe, where they mentioned how each of the characters, where they have gone, where have they been, and so on and so forth, except for two, Shinnosuke and Kiriko, until after 48 in the credits they mention what happens, and then you get the Easter egg that
That was a good touch.
yeah, that A, they get married, and B, they have a son which is Eiji, which is also in the Surprise Drive movie.
Future.
Which I love that Easter egg, the nod to that, even though it's a blatant obvious one, but still, it is still referenced. It's there. And also, I love the fact that, and spoiler alert, that Shinnosuke didn't henshin once. He did not henshin once. And I loved that his urge, his almost
because he had that urge.
Almost
but,
more the fact that it's almost like he's on a withdrawal. Like he lost the friends to henshin with, but it's like it was like on withdrawal, like having the shakes, and I love that.
With the Drive X Ghost movie.
Pardon?
It will be interesting to see how they deal with that in the Drive X Ghost movie.
Like it's like, to put it in a very blunt way, that Krim and Trideron are now, in a blunt way of putting it, 6 feet under, so to say, literally. And the fact that Shinnosuke has the shakes from that, and you actually see that, is brilliant. I thought that was one of the best memorable endings I have ever seen in a Rider episode to date.
Well, talking about the last one.
Go on. I was going to...
Right, well, I'll say, commenting on the last few eps, I'll say that, you kind of see Brain sort of throwing himself in front of the train for Medic, which I thought, was very out of character, but kind of added that sentimental with honor twist. And then you kind of got Bano running around trying to power up this Sigma Ball thing, which he then puts into like a Romudo style body that's kind of ultimate. I think, and you kind of look at Gold Drive's final scenes, which, spoiler alert, are Chaser's final scenes. It kind of, you kind of really feel for Go, and you kind of see the honor that Chaser was looking for in the whole series. It just comes to a head. But I'll say that afterwards, they kind of, there was quite a very cool climatic battle with Sigma versus Drive, and then Heart helping out is like, oh, actually, neither of us do like this Bano guy, and we'll fight Sigma till the end, so, Sigma can't collect the data. And then when you got Heart's final scene, I was a bit like, man, this guy's really sort of hell-bent on defeating Drive, and then it's like, but did he throw the fight on purpose? You just don't know.
I like that. I love that Heart's final scene, that when they were going to have their last fisticuffs, but then when Heart throws his last punch, and but then Shinnosuke doesn't even flinch, and then goes,
I know
you're severely injured, aren't you? And then just collapses, and I thought it was like, shit.
That was quite deep.
I thought that was deep. Honestly, the director was well done, the writers were well done, the choreography was some parts were brilliant, actors brilliant. Would I recommend this to a first timer? Unfortunately not, as the first half was very lengthy character introduction based. Second half is when everything kicks off, so I would say I would recommend this to a second, third timer Rider series watchers.
I'll just comment on the my take on the final ep, which was it had like a tie-in with Ghost, because you look at the final story arc, he had that dream with Ghost, and then X number of months, I think it was something like 6 months later, he then meets Ghost for real. But it's not really a prologue story. I mean, bear in mind, I've already seen the first episode of Ghost. I mean, you've got. I mean, even without having to see the first episode of Ghost, you can see he's already got his Ore Tamashi, which a lot of people are criticising. Oh, this episode you don't see Ghost henshin either, and people are like blah blah blah. But I actually didn't think it was necessary.
Agreed.
And yeah, you know, everything you were saying about Drive not being able to henshin, and then when he had the chance to henshin because of a miracle or something, he's like, you know what, I don't need to henshin. I thought that was quite classy.
And I felt that the directors really restrained the henshin for Drive, and I respect that wholeheartedly.
But yeah, I'd say that's me done.
Same here. So that has been us in regards to reviewing Kamen Rider Drive for this season. So join us next time for whatever the hell it might be. I've been Master Rider Bushido, and as always, that's been my Toku Bro Flayvaman from the other side of the earth, as per usual. And this episode has been brought to you by Mara Green. Anyway, as always, to the cam!
To the cam. See you next time.